Yes, I'm really excited to talk about this topic today, specifically because for me, this was the biggest struggle ever, was to fight cravings, dealing with cravings, because even after, I had all the knowledge, I had a lot of emotional intelligence, I had a lot of awareness around my emotional state and how my thoughts were creating my reality and all of this stuff, I was still unable to not, like, all of that went out the window when it came to cravings, right? And actually what I was finding was, even though I wasn't even moving away from pain, emotional pain, which is originally why I started drinking, taking drugs when I was younger, was to actually be confident enough to be myself in front of lots of people. That's how the addiction got created. That's how I got into this habit loop of feeling like I needed things in order to be myself. Even when I was out of that, like, I was confident enough, I was coping with it, life was okay, I was able to speak my truth, I was able to hold a certain amount of boundaries, I was, building my business, that kind of thing. Even then, I would struggle with cravings, right? And I was so baffled as to why or how I was supposed to control them. So if you're there, then I really understand how frustrating it is. And really, it's so difficult. People can't understand what you're going through either, but it takes up so much mental energy and so much drain to try and force yourself not to give into another part of yourself that is actually much more powerful. So then after going through a lot of this long process, I actually discovered the work of a man called Dr. Judson Brewer, and he absolutely unraveled for me. It was like the cherry on top of the cake. And he actually made me realize that the way I'd actually managed to deal with, like not drinking so much, like not drinking so heavily, was the process he was talking about, right? So I'd started doing breath work, and the breath work was really helping me because it was starting to give me pleasure. So I wasn't really needing to have wine, right? Like the level of stress in my body wasn't as strong, so I wasn't actually craving as intensely, but I would still have these thoughts and these cravings. And so then what I started doing was I would, rather than fighting myself, I would actually give in to the craving, and I was watching, like, what am I even getting from this anymore? And I suppose a really good metaphor for this is when you have, like a relationship you've been in for ages, and it's like, it's just shit in the end. It's just completely shit. There's no point to the relationship anymore, like, but you're still in it, and you still keep thinking, oh, I love them though, but then every time you're around them, you have an argument, or you're just not getting on, or whatever, and you just can't, like, it's gone. The relationship as it was has gone. That's how it was with me and wine for quite a while. Like, I wasn't getting what I thought I was getting out of it. But then when I would try and just completely stop, the part of the brain that still thought that it was getting something would still crave it. And so in the end, all I was getting was a relief from craving, and that's all that was happening. I was just getting a relief from stopping wanting it, even though I knew it wasn't really working. And so when I read this stuff from Judson Brewer, I thought, oh my God, this is exactly what happened. And I've had it now recently with a client, so I'm going to share her story on this call, who is binge eating as well. And it's very simple. Basically, the part of the brain that has made the association that this habit that you've got, right, is that's the way to get you out of pain or to give you more pleasure, that part of the brain isn't very rational. It's just such an old part of the brain. And it's actually the part of the brain that's in all sorts of animals. It's in a very, very early evolution part of the brain. So it's primal, okay? And it just works very, very simply. It's like a little computer mechanism, but it's really powerful. It's still really powerful, but it's not got any like intelligence, so it can't rationalize anything, okay? But what it is, how all habits get formed, which is that there's a trigger, and then there's a behavior, and then there's a reward. And when the reward is stopped, the mental part of you may know that, but the part of the brain that's doing that machine doesn't know that, which is why you'll still crave it, even though you know it's no good for you, which is why it completely baffles you. But the way to access that part of the brain is to use mindfulness, okay? And so what I found I was actually doing, without knowing I was doing it, was I was sitting there with this glass of wine, and I was like, what is it that I'm even getting? And I was just sipping it really, really slowly and being like, am I even getting what I thought I was getting out of it? Like, and slowly but surely, because I would notice that I'd be craving it, and then I'd have it, and then nothing much would change. The only thing that would change is that the thoughts that wanted it were now gone, right? That I didn't have this desire to keep going. What happened was that slowly but surely I became what's called disenchanted with it. There was no longer this like, oh, it's just amazing and I just have to have it. But what most people do with cravings is they try and not have them. But the part of the brain, what you're doing then, if you just cut them off, rather than going through this process of being very, very mindful around it, you're actually reteaching the brain that there's not much reward, right? That's basically what's happening. You're going into the sensory body and you teach the body that there's actually not the reward that it thinks it's getting. Versus, I've got a craving, I just have to resist it, because what that's still feeding into is that this thing, this habit, this wine, this sugar, this, man, this whatever it is that you're hooked on, is still something you want, but you can't have. And wanting something you can't have, right, just increases this intensity, which is why you always loop back around into full when you're like at your weaker moments, right? So the process is to actually not fight the craving, but to go into the craving and watch it. And so when I taught this to one of my clients, and we didn't even go through, she was not working with me for that, so she wasn't even like paying me to do that with her, like we weren't even doing it, but I just gave her a few tips, and she's actually binging less. So she was eating like muffins and stuff, and then it was the typical cycle of like resisting, and then like stuffing her face and then berating herself afterwards and feeling all this shame because she was supposed to be beyond it by now, and she was this really like couldn't understand why this basic behavior was still occurring. So just having that shift of just watching every second, and then also not allowing herself to go into berating thoughts, but allowing herself to eat the food, not fighting it, not resisting it, eat the food, eat it, but being constantly aware of every bite, every moment of it. Then she was finding she just would stop, or she'd spit it out, or that she wouldn't even just go for it. She was binging less, right? So that's one side of helping people with habit change, is just the behavior. Now, obviously the body, if it is stressed, if you are beating yourself up all the time, if you've got all sorts of thoughts that are unhelpful for your body, then you're going to crave something else, right? So you can delete the behavior, but if you don't sort out the underlying foundation, then you're always going to want something else, which is why addictions get passed around, right? So if you manage to stop doing one thing, then you start doing another thing. So it's not enough just to remove the behavior, but that's how you work with the cravings. The other side of it is that it's to do with the emotional and the nervous system, and how your body and how your mind is, how clear, how detoxified it is of, you know, insecurity and insecure thinking and all of that kind of thing, because all of that will make you crave for something, right? Because the body just wants you out of pleasure, out of pain and in pleasure. Okay, so it's not doing anything, it's not doing you, it's actually trying to help you, it's trying to find the medicine for the chronic stress that it's under. So, but when you get to a stage where you no longer need that thing, you really don't need it anymore, you can't even understand why it's still happening, the way to work with the cravings is to teach the body in the cravings. And if you are interested in going through that process, it's multifaceted the way I work. And I only have a few one-to-one spaces. Obviously, I'm going to be giving birth in just under 10 weeks. So there's going to be a short pause if we do work together, but that's fine. The way I've got it set up is so that you'll still be fully supported during that process. But if you do want to spot and you are wanting to shift your like addictive habit, and you are wanting a better way of life where you actually feel satisfied in your own skin, where you actually feel comfortable, you actually feel like empowered, and like that you can have what you want in your life, and that you feel like you can actually be excited, be inspired, be happy in your own skin, just doing normal things. Like everyday life is actually, exciting and vibrant, and you're full of vitality. That's really what we're going for. We're not just going for the removal of the behavior, we're going for having a new experience of everyday life, so you don't even want the frigging behavior, right? The behavior doesn't serve the purpose anymore because it's no longer needed, right? So that's really the goal. That's my goal for working with people. And if that is what you want, then you can book in for a High on Life breakthrough call, and we will map out the pleasure path for you, and I will show you the process and how you get out there, and we will be able to nail the kind of different things that are not allowing you to get to that place currently, right? Not that are in the way of you experience your own natural ability to be fulfilled and enjoying life, and feeling like life's good enough as it is. The way I always like to see the result of the work is when you look at a child, right? They're naturally curious, they're naturally wanting to try new things, they're excited, they jump out of bed in the morning. There's none of this, oh no, I've got too much to do. There's none of this ongoing resistance and fear that we've all got so frigging used to, that we actually think it's normal, but it isn't normal. It's just normal in this current society. We're shifting out of all of that, so you can source your own joy, source your own peace, source your own happiness from within. And that's really what it means to be high on life. So if that's of interest to you, I'm going to put the link in the chat, in the thingy above this video, and I would love to speak to you and help you out with that. Let me know if this was helpful, and if it makes sense, and if it resonates with you. It really was a game changer for me to feel like I didn't have to fight myself anymore. So there are lots of ways, and I definitely suggest you go and look at the work of Dr. Judson Brewer. He wrote a book called The Craving Mind. He also writes one called Unwinding Anxiety. Fabulous the way he describes, and I was like, no, I've never heard anyone talk about it in the way he's talking about it. That just worked so much better for me, because I was ultimately trying to cut off a behavior that was the only thing that was actually giving me the pleasure at the time. Like, that was the only thing. Like, why would you want to have exactly the same life but without this thing that gives you the pleasure, right? And And then when it got past that point, it was like, well, why do I still want this thing? And it's because your brain hasn't learned that that thing isn't giving you the pleasure. It automatically assumes, it's like an automatic behavior, that it does give pleasure. So it needs to relearn. We can't learn it if you're just fighting it all the time, right? It has to relearn. It's not trying to hurt you. Cravings aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to help you. So you have to work with them. So yeah, hopefully this is helpful, and thanks for watching, and do drop any comments and send me a message if you have any questions as well. If you don't want to comment under the video, that's fine. Okay, have a lovely day. Speak to you soon. Bye.